After 56 years, the family of late ANC activist James Booi finally has some closure. His remains were found and exhumed by the NPA's Missing Persons Task Team.
Well, Booi was arrested in 1961 and sent to Robben Island. In 1966, he was moved to Groenpunt prison and died just 3 months later. It is believed he was tortured by the notorious apartheid police security branch while there. So let's get more now from the NPA's task teams. Madeleine Fullout. Madeleine, thank you so much for your time this morning. Can you just give us a little bit of context and historical knowledge to this conversation around James Booi? Who was he and what were the events leading to his untimely death?
Morning, Faith. Yes, so you'll recall that in the early 1960s, political parties were banned, the ANC, the PAC, and so on, and thousands of members of those organizations were detained, charged, and imprisoned. And James Booi was one of those people. And he was, as you said, sentenced to Robben Island. And after a couple of years, he was transferred to Groenpunt prison for reasons we're not quite sure. And within, as you said, less than, I think it was 2 months actually after his arrival, he died. And he was one of a number of Robben Island prisoners that passed away while serving their sentence. And we've been having a partnership with Robben Island Museum to try to trace the whereabouts of those prisoners who died, because those families did not receive the remains. Some of them heard that they had died, but never knew where they had been buried or what had happened to their bodies.
What went, Madeleine, what went into the recovery of these remains? I mean, the exhumation, I would imagine it was a long and very delicate process to ensure that this recovery was successful. So what went into it?
Yeah, so we were, Robben Island Museum referred the case of Mr. James Booi to us about 4 years ago, and we worked on it for a couple of years without success. And then we were able to speak to an old warder who had worked at the prison in the 1970s, not in the 60s, but he recalled that at that time, deceased prisoners were taken to Sasolburg. And from there, we transferred our area of investigation to Sasolburg, and we were able to establish that he'd been buried as a pauper in an unmarked grave in Zamdela, which was just outside Sasolburg. And we then worked on locating the grave, which was a task in itself because the grave was unmarked. Oh. And we did some pre-exhumation excavations, and we were able to locate the grave. And we were then able to plan a public exhumation with the family, with the assistance, wonderful assistance of the Metsimaholo local municipality and other local structures.
You know, Madeleine, as you're speaking about the story, it does not take away from the family and the ordeal that they've had to go through, looking for somebody for about 56 years. The family has spent searching for the remains of James. What does this moment mean for the family as they seek this closure, and to even find out the circumstances surrounding his death must be something that is not only horrific for them, but they now have to deal with whether or not people will be arrested or prosecuted for his murder. So there's something else that they have not received closure on. But 56 years looking for your loved one is not something that we take lightly.
Yes, I mean, we have to pay tribute to the family. They did not cease searching for, particularly Nombulelo Booi. She didn't stop searching for her father. She she went to Robben Island, I think shortly after democracy, after the museum was set up, and started making inquiries. They had actually been searching as well earlier, but once Robben Island Museum was set up, they were able to direct their inquiries, and they really did search ceaselessly. And I will never forget the moment when we actually located the grave, and we phoned them. We phoned Nombulelo, and we said to her, "We are standing at your father's grave right now." And it was just the most incredible moment. It really was magical. And it was during COVID, actually, that we located the grave. And the cemetery workers were so excited themselves. They were singing and dancing. We were so excited. And the caretaker of the Zamdela cemetery died of COVID just 2 weeks later. So he never got to see the exhumation, but he was so excited. And we then started planning. Of course, it was very difficult during the COVID period, the Delta wave and so on. But we finally managed to hold the exhumation, and the day itself was really, really magical, wonderful, and extremely sad, very difficult. But at the same time, you know, a great sense of relief. The family was able to perform rituals, and they will be able to bury him. It was a difficult exhumation. The grave was full of water, but we were able to recover the remains.
Madeleine, before we let you go, just very quickly, what 1996's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, of course, taught us was that there are a whole lot of cases like this, a lot of families that are without that closure, a lot of families desperate for that closure. Some families probably don't exist anymore, you know, at least the people that know that their loved ones went missing. Are there more cases such as the Booi families where there are people who are also searching, perhaps not as intensely as Nombulelo did, but do we know if there are other cases that the task team perhaps isn't also now working on?
Yes, we have a list from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and families continue to approach us with legitimate cases of political disappearances, people who disappeared in the period from 1960 to 1994. And we have recovered almost 170 remains of disappeared persons inside the country. We work across the political spectrum. We work on cases from all political parties and political movements. And the cases reflect a range of different political circumstances. And we are still working on many, many cases. And, you know, we will continue to do so as long as there's still information and documentation that can assist in recovering their remains.